about cybersecurity. My name is Marije de Groot and I'm your moderator. First, I will introduce the speakers. After that, we will start with the questions. So the four speakers we have are Peter Miedema, he's from Friesland College, Erik Rutkens from Day Zero, Robin Leeuwerke from HackerOne, and Joris Mellens from the Hanze Hogeschool. Peter, can you please introduce yourself shortly?
Yes, of course. My name is Peter Miedema, and I'm working at Friesland College, regional academy in the north of the Netherlands. And within Friesland College, I am the project manager for cybersecurity, concerning all busy with mostly ICT students.
Thank you, Peter. Erik, it's your turn.
Thank you, Marije. Like you said, I'm Erik. I'm the founder of Day Zero, which is actually formally founded today, an incubator and accelerator for innovative, scalable cybersecurity ideas, startups, and scale-ups. I'm also a part-time, I think the right English word is practitioner, IoT security at Noorderpoort, which is a regional education center like Peter is working for. And I'm one of the initiators to increase the cybersecurity resilience of small and medium enterprises through public-private cooperation in the north of the Netherlands. I'm also the founder of Qubit Cybersecurity, where I worked for more than 10 years, and I left last year, and I'm also the founder and owner of a company that's called Zerocopter, which also works in the cybersecurity space. All these initiatives have the ambition to make the North, but the Netherlands or even Europe and the world a little bit safer.
Okay, thank you, Erik. Robin, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. All right, so my name is Robin. I'm a head of product engineering of the HackerOne R&D team in Groningen. HackerOne is a global company headquarters in San Francisco. Was founded by two persons, Michiel and Jobert from Groningen, and Alex Rice, who was the former head of security of Facebook, and our teams in Groningen do all the innovational parts of our platform.
Well, thank you, Robin. Joris, it's your turn. Could you please unmute yourself? We don't hear you.
I should not be muted.
Yes, now we hear
there we
you.
Go. I wasn't muted before. I turned it off and on again, so now it's working. The classical solution.
Sure. Yeah.
So yes, my name is Joris. I am a junior lecturer and researcher at the Hanze University of Applied Sciences here in Groningen. I mainly teach in the HBO ICT program, and specifically, I focus on the courses within the networking and security track. For my research, I'm currently working with Cybersecurity Noord-Nederland, the program, and within that, I'm working mostly on applied research for IoT security solutions specifically, and that is kind of also a little bit of a continuation of my graduation project, which some may have heard before, which is CARE, an IoT firewall. That was in the Northern Talent Award earlier this month, which actually won the Best Solution Prize, which I'm quite proud of.
Yes, thank you, and congratulations, Joris. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start the questions now. If you, audience, have any questions, go ahead. Please put your questions in the chat box. Peter, why is cybersecurity so important for Friesland College?
Well, a couple of years ago, we've connected with the local entrepreneurs and the small and medium enterprises, and connected more or less on what was needed on the local labor market. And one of the items and trends, that was quite a big thing, was cybersecurity. So we made that team, or gave it priority, within the curriculum of Friesland College to the ICT students to develop a stronger curriculum based on security and to have more local hands on the labor market in the near future.
Okay, thank you. Erik, what are the biggest threats in the cybersecurity?
Well, there are, I guess, quite a few, but one of which, which we can relate to, for instance, the labor market, is that actually there is a very big need for cybersecurity knowledge and expertise, and actually the supply of this knowledge is very limited. So there is a gap, and of course there are all sorts of, when you are a small and medium enterprise, for instance, all sorts of threats that are facing you, especially in these COVID times, ranging from criminals who offer fake goods to criminals that use phishing, CEO fraud, and all sorts of other stuff to for financial gains, to name a few.
Okay, thank you. Robin, could you tell me more about HackerOne?
Yeah, sure. So as said, I think everybody is aware of the threat of cybersecurity, and especially because of this digital transformation that the whole world is moving into, and being sort of speed up by the COVID situation. We as HackerOne have a mission to make the internet safer. So that means that we are very working with a global community of hackers or researchers, so to speak, that will help companies that work with our platform to find vulnerabilities, and so companies have the ability to fix the vulnerabilities before hackers, black hat hackers, can utilize those vulnerabilities and do either ransomware or any other kind of threat to a company. And we as HackerOne, amongst some other companies, of course, we have this mission to help there and make the world safer.
Yeah, actually, Marije, if I may add to that, I think HackerOne is a very cool example, and especially I think we should be very proud of HackerOne because, like Robin said, the founders are from Groningen and studied at Hanze University as well. But it's a perfect example how we can use the power of the hacker community to actually, in a new ways, solve the problem I mentioned before, where there's a gap between the expertise, the demand for it, and the supply we have. So I think, I'm not sure, Robin, but you have like over 600,000 or even more researchers.
1 million.
Yeah.
1 million.
On their platform, which are willing to help people all over the world, which is amazing, right?
Okay, Joris, what is the role of IoT in the present and future of cybersecurity?
Well, I think it's a growing role. It's something that's currently in an interesting place, because what we currently see is that there are currently, I think, over 8 billion IoT devices, but they're mostly in consumer hands. So mostly when they're when they are being attacked, when they're hacked, what we see mostly that they're used for botnet purposes. So they'll often be used for denial of service attacks against other websites, or they'll be used to mine cryptocurrency. And what's interesting about that is that those kinds of attacks don't really harm the owner of the device, right? When let's say your smart thermostat or your doorbell camera is being used to send internet traffic to I don't know, the website of the Hanze household, that doesn't really concern the owner. So what we have is a lot of devices that are currently not as secure as we'd like them to be, and the people who are in charge of maintaining them have very little reason to care about the the fact that they're being attacked, because the attacks currently targeting the devices aren't that interesting to the owner. And on top of that, obviously, it's a very new type of computing, right? Erik already mentioned that there is a big gap in the knowledge that is available with with designers and developers, and the knowledge that ideally we'd like to have. And within IoT, you're working with with smaller devices, more constrained power limitations. You're working with more generic and different types of hardware and in different kinds of deployment. So that knowledge is even harder to access, especially for something like smaller businesses, because IoT is perfect for someone who might work in an industry and has a really great idea, right? They see a problem that can be solved with data analysis or with automation, and they can get some investment and they can get a developing team. But it's hard to, from that point, also incorporate all the required expertise to really make security and privacy the essential point in your design. So I think that's why it's a very interesting challenge in the in the threat landscape of today.
Oh, thank you, Joris.
And the challenge with the current way we look at and try to secure IoT devices, that will not fix the problem.
What do you mean by that specifically?
Well, we nowadays look at IoT devices or security, what in research is called sort of an eco-centric way. So we try to secure the IoT device. And I think with all the threats and the fact that, for instance, IoT devices connect the physical and the digital world, and also with that in mind, it becomes a threat for like our safety, and we've seen examples of that, of course. But the technology is developing very rapidly, but also the threat. So basically, the IoT devices do not need to be secure by design, but they should also be more adaptive in seeing what threats are there and adjusting to it. So they should basically become more social instead of egocentric. It's philosophical, I'm aware of that, but very interesting research done in this area, by the way, by a big research program in the Netherlands called Intersect.
I see a question from Victor. Is it relatively easy to measure that? Who can respond to this question?
To measure to measure what exactly?
Victor, could you explain this? The number of IoT devices.
It's relatively easy. You can have get an idea yourself if you go to like a website like Showdown, for instance. Everything which has an IP, you can measure. You can look at that, of course, and there are specific models for it, and there are different organizations that do estimates about the amount of devices that are connected. You can, for instance, look at a website called Security Today, and then you can get an idea. They publish all sorts of graphs.
Okay,
I do believe I've read the 30 billion figure as well. I believe I read that as an estimate for around 2030. So either.
It might be a definition question, but if you go look there, they say it's around 31 billion. Of course, it's based on models and estimates, and if you see every router we use at home as an IoT device, well, that moves fast, but it's always hard to imagine. But the number grows with millions every day. Like if I look at myself, my watch is connected. Luckily not my shoes, but at home, my refrigerator, my toothbrush. Why on earth, you might ask? I have a hacker friend called Edwin van Andel, and he bought a new Oral-B toothbrush, and then he got a message. He could register the toothbrush. Then he he got invited by his toothbrush to become friends on LinkedIn. Then you think, okay, why?
I would like that too.
It's at least very friendly.
It is very friendly.
No, but I think regardless of what the exact number is, I think what you say is the key takeaway, is that it's just, there are a lot of them, no matter which way you measure it, and there's just tons more coming every day. And within that field, like you said, it's not just a matter of like, how do we secure it? We're not even entirely certain of that, because the best practices and lessons we've learned from classical computing, if you will, don't always translate well to these new kinds of systems, like you said.
Erik, I'm quite curious if you just mentioned the transition from having a less egocentric safety environment to more social. How do you start this transition like that?
Well, what's done now, and I mentioned the research program, is that a lot of and actually the Intersect research program is a very big program. It is led by the Technical University of Eindhoven, but also other technical universities join, a lot of companies join, and they have started a joint research effort which focuses on a more social security model. But and that's always sort of a dilemma. This is like almost fundamental research. So I think we should also do things right now, because it will take quite some time before we have the results of this research, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like that's more the question: how do we redefine how we make these devices secure in the first place? Like, how do we? It's a redefinition of how we look at that.
Yeah.
I think, rather than that's a step above even redesigning the entire the processes.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I'm not sure, Robin, if I think you also with on the HackerOne platform in like closed programs do research on, or have involved the hacker community to look at the security of IoT devices, and often these are very smart people with great ideas on how to improve, for instance, IoT security in the short term, but also in the long term.
Yeah, you're right. I think what is interesting to see is that although we do a lot of activities on IoT security, what you also see is that most of the clients that we have are pretty big clients, but they all keep their programs private, because you can understand that if everything is being published by default, zero-day hacks and all kinds of hacks can be published and shared to the wrong people. So yes, most of our programs also include like IoT assets to be discovered and to be hacked. So that's true.
Okay, Peter, how is cybersecurity integrated in the curriculum?
Well, we do integrate it in a lot of projects. We offer our students project-based education, and that means that it's not just a single workshop or a series of workshops which connects to security, but we have projects which last for 20 weeks or 10 weeks, and then we have the security issues let me say, integrated in the project, and that's one part, and we increase the complexity to the second year to the third years. And next to that, we also have what we call in the MBO keuzedelen, where a student is able to, besides his ICT curriculum, has the opportunity to choose for a part of education he wants to, he wants to enhance his skills on a certain item, and we offer then on security several keuzedelen based on security in systems and in networking. We connect to what Erik is doing for Noorderpoort, security on hardware, on software. So they have, next to their standard curriculum, they also have the opportunity to be able to learn more in specific security issues.
Oh, thank you. The next question is for Erik. Why do we need public and private partnerships to increase cybersecurity resilience?
Well, that's interesting, and actually, what people are watching right now, you could also see as sort of a public-private partnership. Different educational institutions like Frisland College, Noorderpoort, but also Hanze Hogeschool are currently working together in like this northern program to increase cybersecurity resilience. But we work together also with companies like HackerOne to do that. And why is that important? That has to do with one of the first things I said, with the basically also the lack of knowledge, and which also means, at least in my opinion, that from an economic perspective, the knowledge you have as a cybersecurity expert or company, you are by laws of economics, basically, you keep that for yourself. So there's a big gap, and if we don't watch it, this will become bigger. So we need sort of public-private cooperation and incentives to see if we can decrease this gap. That is very important. It's also one of the main topics of for instance, the Dutch National Cybersecurity Agenda, and it's actively stimulated by what's called the Digital Trust Center, which we have in the Netherlands.
And
Sounds like that's also. I'm sorry. You want to?
I want to ask if the others agree with this vision.
It sounds like it kind of connects to what you said earlier about more socialized, more social form of security as well, right? Because you have the public has an incentive to keep basically everyone safe and to keep everyone protected, and so you have that public initiative, which you can then use to motivate private parties to improve their security, and you can use the public initiatives to create that knowledge and then spread that without looking for profit.
Exactly. Yeah, and maybe that based on, for instance, your winning solution, people get ideas and can, for instance, be helped by companies like HackerOne to make that to make it a commercial success. But we need incentives to make sure I always say, the knowledge there is, to make it scalable and available not only for individuals, but also, for instance, for small and medium enterprises, which is a big issue right now. And yeah, especially with the fast adoption of all sorts of IoT solutions, it's becoming more important. Even more.
Especially those smaller enterprises who just they don't have the ability to get the expertise on board.
Yeah.
No, the same goes for education, of course. I mean, we need these collaborations from public-private issues to be able to develop skills and enhance qualities for the students, which we are not able to do by ourselves if we don't have the expertise from guys like Erik or the Digital Trust Center, for example.
Yeah, Peter, maybe because I'm fairly new in at Noorderpoort and in the area of the regional education centers. One of the problems within education often is that it takes 4 to 5 years to develop a curriculum.
Yeah, a new dossier, yes.
And I also understood that you are involved in some of experiments to sort of be able to develop programs faster and to adopt more to the needs, what we're talking about right now, or the needs of companies.
Yeah, well, we did to set up the pace for development on security skills and levels for students. You have several initiatives from the government, but the best initiative is to have partnerships in these public-private collaborations. And for example, we'll be working together also with Noorderpoort in a project called Security and Agriculture, and that is based on the context of the agriculture, and to make sure how aware these farmers are on the theme of cybersecurity. And we were not able to do that from the educational point of view, but we are able to participate as a partner in a collaboration like that, and then they are able to educate our students on skills, on security skills, also on community of to talk to farmers, etc., etc. But this is one of the examples that I believe that education needs to be able to be on the front side of development cybersecurity skills. And I think yeah.
Peter, can you tell a little bit more about that agriculture project?
Yeah, it's a partnership. It is initiated by the Digital Trust Center, where we've asked to develop awareness at the farmers, agriculture participants in the north. We have Frisland College involved. We have Noorderpoort College involved. We have the local bank involved, who has a strong connection to these farmers financially. And what we basically do is that we ask the farmers, are you aware what's going on in your digital environment? Are you aware how a supplier is using your data? Are you aware if Wi-Fi is connected to your stable and you're dependent on for example, the quality of the temperature in your stable, that you're quite vulnerable. So we do scans, we secure them, we have interviews, and then in the end we hope to get them around the table and tell them what we've seen, what we found, and then we hope that they are more aware of the vulnerabilities in their system, in their ecosystem, and their level of awareness is going up. So that's quite it is a nice project, and that is one of the ways that we collaborate with public and private parties.
Great. Robin, what trends do you see in cybersecurity?
Yeah, so what we see is that obviously, like the hackers are working like 24 hours all around the globe, finding weak systems, and I think that's something that is continuous going on. And what we've seen in the US is that vulnerability disclosure programs are programs that companies or the governmental organizations have in place to practice the you see something, you report something. So to enable basically the good hackers or the white hackers and researchers to report something if you find something vulnerability in a web system, basically any system. And what has recently changed, I think it is effectively per 1st of March, that each US government agency or supplier to the government is obligated or is mandated to have a vulnerability disclosure program, because they really say that, okay, we need to have the global community also active in protecting us. You can organize like a quarterly assessment by any of the big companies, do pen test or security check, but innovation is so fast. Like software engineering teams deploy like new features every day, or vendors of software release new software every day. So you can't rely on a sort of a recurring event. You need to do it constantly. And I think having a mandated VDP or vulnerability disclosure is something that is in the US mandated, and we have in the Netherlands and also in Europe we have the coordinated vulnerability disclosure, but it's still an optional thing and it's more a guideline than more of a mandated thing. And I believe that governmental agencies will probably move towards the mandated part of it to benefit from the global community.
Some kind of supply chain security.
Yeah.
Can you the others add something at it, or is it complete story from Robin?
I totally agree. I think, Peter, we should have a look to see if we can do a pilot or something with HackerOne after we've done some technical assessments with the farmers, for instance.
Yeah. I like the idea of what Robin just mentioned, that you also need to be mandated to have a secure option to a farmer, for example, and then the farmer is not the party who is vulnerable, but the supply chain is vulnerable, and that's quite an interesting idea, and that's also new to me.
Yeah, actually, that is a very important thing.
Yeah.
What you see a lot, where basically not every software vendor takes security seriously. Basically, everybody is when you build software, it's about functionality and time to market, and it's not about security. So historically, we test security, or software vendors test security in like real life. And now we luckily have companies like HackerOne who help the community or our society with that. But there is still no mandatory thing for software vendors to make their software secure. There was, however, last year a legal case in the Netherlands which said that even though you don't have contractual agreements about security with a vendor, they should do some basic stuff. But yeah, basically, when you're in a legal case like this, you're too late, right?
Yeah, and you need to repair, and that's not. Yeah. Now we've noticed that with the short survey we've done with the farmers, that with the local suppliers, food and other stuff, fertilizer, that they are in their own more like security bubble. They use each other's data. They use each other's passwords. They are connected between each other and to the farmer. So yeah, that's zo'n lekker zo'n mandje.
Yeah.
And then the idea of what Robin just mentioned, this mandated security line to a client is very interesting.
I think it's also been shown plenty of times that it's really necessary to have this kind of higher level enforcement of vulnerability disclosure. I believe sometime last week, 2 weeks ago, there was a news story that broke about a water treatment plant in Florida that got hacked, and it wasn't even a complex attack. They didn't really even end up doing anything effective because it got shut down by someone who noticed it and turned it off, turned the systems off manually. But that was quite a significant, quite a scary bit of news, right? Like a water treatment plant, and it's been hacked into, and that's very dangerous and very scary. But then it turns out that for years already, plenty of security researchers have been, they've already been publishing, proof that, hey, this system is vulnerable. I could hack into this if I wanted to, all throughout at least throughout America. I'm not quite sure about the rest of the world, but at least there, it's been a known thing for a while. But we don't really hear about them because most of the time such attacks aren't really, they aren't disclosed. It's just we just happen to hear about this one case because a local sheriff decided to hold a press conference, and that lack of vulnerability disclosure means we don't really have a good idea of what dangers we're actually facing.
Yeah.
I don't see any questions in the chat box. Are there no questions at this time? Well, Joris,
Why is
okay.
HackerOne so awesome?
Good question. It's like a colleague of mine. I think HackerOne is amazing. So I think like what Erik already said, that if you look at like this event, Meet Your Future in a Digital World, specifically for people outside of the Netherlands and going to Groningen, it is really a nice opportunity that you can see that Groningen is investing a lot in cybersecurity, and both educational and public organizations, but also private companies. And I think it's very exciting to see that if you are sort of considering moving to Groningen, that you can be part of a local organization that has a global impact, which is, I think, pretty exciting to be part of. So that's the answer.
Okay, a question for all of you. What do you think is important that a company brings in addition to reliable cybersecurity solutions? Who want to respond as first?
You repeat the question one more time?
Oh, what do you think it's important that a company brings in addition to a reliable cybersecurity solutions? So why should the students coming to your company? What makes it worth?
Yeah, so I think
cybersecurity, what makes it interesting?
Yeah, so I think in general, like cybersecurity is I would say like the core of our future. We've all experienced that that we know that we all sitting at home, working in isolation, digital first. So cybersecurity is at the core of it. Like if you can't communicate safely, it is something that is sort of close to like the police, local police, or firemen, or any other services to keep you safe. And I think cybersecurity is more and more important. And so I think it's joining the cybersecurity industry is the step to the future.
Okay, thank you. I see a question from Sarah, I suppose. Yes, can hacking ever be ethical? Ooh.
That's interesting. I think it can, and I think we still have a challenge in doing so, because as long as we see hackers associate hackers with like criminal activity or spying and stuff like that, and also criminal organizations, but also nation states paying lots of money for so-called 0 days. I think there are still more like black hat hackers than white hat hackers. But again, platforms like HackerOne make hacking more ethical, because you can earn a decent living as a hacker on a platform like HackerOne. I believe there are over 10 Robin bug bounty millionaires on your platform. So hackers that earned over the years more than $1 million.
2 million already.
2 million, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, so ethical hacking can be really a business, and I think the nice thing about this is, it doesn't matter what education you have, it doesn't matter where you are coming from, as long as if you have internet and a computer, you can learn to become an ethical hacker and earn money from that.
I think it's important from the ethics perspective, to be aware that most of the times these bug bounty programs are very explicit constraints and limitations to what you are and aren't allowed to do. It's still technically hacking, but you're also working within terms of kind of agreement with the company that you are hacking into.
Yeah, I think there's also a challenge for people like Peter and I in education, that what we often find, especially with younger people, is they have like this all these techniques just at their disposal and they can use, but they do not know what ethical use of these techniques means. So you can just do it, and there's a big difference between the digital and the physical world. I always say, if I want to break in somewhere and I have a brick and I want to throw it through a window, well, I think twice before I throw the brick, and a lot of people have that. In an online world, especially with younger people, they don't hesitate to throw the brick, and they just like behind a screen and think, okay, nobody can see me, or so this and they're not right, of course, but this anonymity there is for educators, and not only the regional education center, also in primary schools, we should teach children about ethics and ethical behavior.
Yeah. It's not just the anonymity. I think it's also the you're further away from any potential damages. They seem more abstract.
Yeah.
And obviously it isn't always going to directly cause damage, but you never really know.
Yeah, and especially with youngsters in like their puberty, they are not really capable of like assessing, or they have no idea what they're doing. It's not in their brains yet. So it's also very difficult.
Yeah, they're basically just throwing a wrench in the works and kind of seeing what happens if the machine comes to a halt. And that can be very dangerous.
We do at Friesland College, we have a strong collaboration with the Hack Lab, which is a platform in Leeuwarden, where we have youngsters who have dropped out from school or have a further distance to the labor market. And some of these youngsters, they have been sitting at their room just for a couple of years with the internet connection, like Robin mentioned, and a laptop. And they have skills that we're not aware of. And with these skills, they go online and they try, and they're curious what they can achieve with the skills. And they go to the dark net, or they buy something, they buy a script, or they go somewhere else. And they open a back door, and instead of telling somebody your back door is open, they just have a quick look, because, well, that doesn't harm anyone. And that is just the issue about the ethical part, the ethical issues, where you need to discuss on with these youngsters, and even at primary school perhaps, to tell them, even if you're opening a digital backdoor, you're allowed to open it, but not to enter. And to make these youngsters aware that they are able to do that, because their digital skills are more advanced than we ever think they are. That's a good lesson for lessons to be used for educational.
Well, thank you. I see an interesting question from Bert to Robin. Do I need to know how to hack when I want to work at HackerOne?
Yeah, so although the name says HackerOne, we have some people in our organization that are excellent hackers. But if you look at our team in Groningen, our teams are research and development teams, which means that we have product managers that define like the future of our product. We have UX designers that just create like brilliant interfaces, and we have software engineers of all kinds of levels that develop on our platform. Those are not hackers per se. They have maybe some interest in hacking, but you don't need to be a hacker to join HackerOne, and certainly not in Groningen.
Well, thank you for your answer, Robin. A question from Sarah, to all of you. What's your advice for young people that want to go into the IT?
Go to Friesland College or go to Noorderpoort.
Or the Hanze University.
Find a organization where you can learn more about your passion, and if you're motivated for IT, then make sure you connect with that. And you can do it on several ways, but it is a beautiful world to be working in.
Yeah. And I think one of the beautiful things, and also one of the kind of dangerous things, because it connects to what you said earlier about IT and cybersecurity as well, is that of course you can learn it from a school, and that does help a lot. But if you're in a situation where maybe you don't have the time for schooling anymore because you're full-time employment, there's so many resources available online as well, and you can do certifications and personal projects on the side, and you can find the information you need to learn those skills with just a laptop, right? So in theory, all you need to learn is dedication and just time and an internet connection, and that's very, very nice because it means that everyone who wants to can at some point enter the field. But it also has that dangerous flip side of, well, of what you mentioned earlier. In order to be a threat, all you need is dedication, willingness to learn, and an internet connection, right? So anyone with there's a very low barrier to entry in that sense.
True.
Okay, Joris, what do you see as the main focus for industry-wide cybersecurity improvement?
Well, I think one of the more important things is something I think Erik touched on this earlier as well, is how you incorporate security into the development cycle of a product. Right? It was mentioned earlier that often a lot of times people, when a product is developed, its focus is on functionality, focuses on user interaction, and then security may be considered. And some of the individual specialists working there will consider security elements within their job, perhaps, but it's not a core element of security. And I think implementing more security by design, integrating security more fundamentally into the development cycles and design cycles of products is something that is I think one of the more important things. And I think a good example of this, a nice contrast, is two bits of news regarding the GGD recently, or at least the Corona crisis in general. And we had of course the recent leaks with personal information, right, from the GGD systems, which were there was personal information from people in the GGD systems that were accessible to people who did not necessarily need it. Right, the systems weren't properly designed to segregate necessary information from unnecessary information, which is something that is really quite simple. If those principles were considered during the designing of it, it would have been quite simple to keep that information separate and make sure that those leaks didn't happen. And on the other hand, what we have quite recently is the story that's been going on around the Corona Melder app. Right, that's a thing that's been happening. The history behind that was the government set out an offer like, hey, who can make this app? No one could make it, or at least they could make it, but there was so much criticism regarding privacy, regarding security, regarding functionality. And eventually, when that got dropped and all the offers that were made were considered insecure, the chief information security officer from I believe VWS, Volksgezondheid en Welzijn en Sport, he actually kind of kickstarted a sort of half open source project, gathering experts from both internally and also from among public critics, who just basically developed the app in a kind of half open source. They had some internal repositories and then published the final work on, they published that as open source. And they actually, out of that, managed to create an app that is still, there's still privacy concerns, right? It's still inherently an application that tries to track who you meet, which is obviously a very invasive thing to try to do. But despite having such an invasive goal, I think they've managed to create something that is very surprisingly secure, right? And that's because they had, during that entire process, they had security experts at the heart of the design process that had to vet for all of the design decisions, right? Which means that you can make even a very invasive, do a kind of very invasive thing without actually being that invasive. And if something like that can be developed in such a comparatively secure way, then the question is, why aren't simple things just as successful? And I think the answer is because really we're not trying hard enough per se, in the sense that we're not putting as much focus on security as I think we should.
Well, thank you for your answer, Joris. Do we need more women in the cybersecurity world? And if so, why? Well, Erik, maybe you can respond us first.
I think it applies in general for IT, but I think in our digital world, we need people, and that should be like a mirror of our society. And I guess even in the Netherlands, there are statistically more women than there are men. Why is that not the case in IT? And I think a mix of people with different views and sometimes even women look differently at things and at men. That's also something you need within the security area, to look at things differently to make it more secure. And that shouldn't not only be a thing that is done by men. And actually, I guess the number of women in IT is increasing, but is still lagging behind with the number of men. And when you look at cybersecurity, well, we're doing, like Peter is mentioned, at Noorderpoort right now, and also people from Hanze Hogeschool are joining a Keuzedeel ethical hacking, which started last week. We have 30 people, of which are 5 are women, which is I'm very happy with that, because I did not expect that. But that is also I already think it's sort of normal that women are not really interested into cybersecurity. But again, there are some brilliant cybersecurity also researchers out there which are women. So more is better.
They're more than welcome.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And it's a good thing the numbers are increasing, like you said. I think when I started my study, I think 5 years ago, when I started, I think in my starting generation there was, I think one in 20, well, less than 1 in 20, maybe 1 in 20, 1 in 30. Of all the participants were women, and I think right now in the classes I'm teaching, I'm seeing that also go up to similar numbers, like Erik is saying, like maybe 4 or 5. So there's definitely a rising trend, and I think that's very, very good thing to see.
Okay, women are also welcome at HackerOne.
Yes, indeed. So we have an active higher diversity strategy. So basically, not only women, but just to hire a diverse pool of candidates, and women are also in that. So we also hired recently a new machine learning expert from the Hanze University, a lady. So we are very proud of that. And although I must also admit that due to relocation problems we have now, it is a little bit more difficult to hire a more diverse pool, because basically we are restricted to the countries we are currently in. But hopefully soon, when we were able to relocate again, we can open up our diversity pool a little bit bigger.
Great. Are there any questions for the chat box? It's a bit silent on the other side. No one have a question right now? You can put them down. Let me see. What are the key competences you need to work in the cybersecurity? Who like to respond on this question? The key competences.
The first thing that comes to mind when you ask the question, when you asked the question, was curiosity.
Yeah, I think that's I went in the same direction, just the willingness to learn, because you're working in a field that is just by nature constantly evolving. So in order to be successful, you're going to need to be constantly learning new information yourself, and that's just just a reality of the field, and that's something that you have to find interesting rather than a chore.
Peter, you mentioned media safety. Could you explain what do you mean by that?
Yeah, of course. Within the project of cybersecurity in Friesland College, we have, on the one hand, we have to we enhance the curriculum with technical IT security skills for our students, and on the other hand, we also try to make other students not IT related media savvy, so they are aware of examples of fake news, or they can judge other media information on maybe through experience or another level what it is. So that's then how is your data used? If you share a photo or a picture, are you aware of what's going on? How big is the influence of Google on your search behavior? Items like that. And that is not only related to ICT, but that is a broader item, which is also addressed to all youngsters. And it's also within the project we're running with the Cybersafety Noord-Nederland. It's called Digitaal Weerbare Jeugd, where we try to make them more aware of the vulnerabilities if they leave a digital footprint. So that's more on the awareness part of security, cyber safety. That's what I mean by media savvy.
Oh, thank you for your answer. And if the youngest want to get in touch with you all, how can they contact you?
Well, they can contact me via my email. I think that is somewhere over here. At least I hope. And otherwise, look me up on Frisland College.
Okay.
I have a LinkedIn. I'm also on LinkedIn, so yeah, they probably find me.
Okay. And Erik wrote already his contact info in the chat, I suppose.
No, I didn't. But if people want to contact me, just enter search for my name, and then you'll find my contact details. I'm on LinkedIn. And
what about you, Robin?
Yeah, the same. The easiest way is just send me an email at robin@hackerone.com, but you can also look me up on LinkedIn.
Okay, so we are almost on the end of the session right now. Do you want to make a remark or a comment? Erik, first for you.
Well, not really for the moment. I thought we had some interesting discussions. Maybe an hour is a bit long, but I hope people enjoyed at least some of the things we said. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Erik. Robin?
Yeah, the same. I think it's very nice to have this topic in this for this audience also, and I was pretty happy with the content and the questions. So.
Well, thank you, Robin. Peter, would you like to make a comment or remark?
No, I agree with what Erik just mentioned, and Robin. It's been a nice conversation. It's nice meeting you all. I know Erik, of course, but nice to meet Joris and Robin. And was quite triggered by the remark of Erik to look into a kind of a pilot, perhaps in collaboration with HackerOne. So that is just juicing through my brains at this moment. And probably next week when I'm on holiday, I'll get in contact with Erik about that.
Oh, nice. And Joris, would you like to add something?
I don't think I have anything more to add on top of what was said. Yeah, there've been a few topics that kicked up some interesting discussion, and I thought it was good to participate.
Okay, if there are any questions left, then I would also like to thank you all for your participation, and of course, Erik, Robin, Peter, and Joris in particularly. For the audience, I wish you good luck in making the right choices for your career. Thank you again all, and have a good day.
All right, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.